City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Braithwaite. I'm here. Alderman Nguyen. Here. Alderman Wilson. Here. Alderman Holmes. Here. Alderman Tindem. Here. Alderman Ravel. Sorry. Alderman Rainey. Here. Alderman Miller. Here. 7-0.
We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the mayor's public announcements and proclamations. And with the holiday season just around the corner, the city of Evanston is hosting its annual food and toy drive. There are 2 easy ways to donate. The city will be collecting new unwrapped toys that encourage physical and/or social activities and non-perishable food items. Holiday donation boxes will be located in the lobby of one of our 12 convenient Evanston drop-off sites through Friday, December 9th. The Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center, library branches, the Evanston Police Station, all community centers, and fire stations. To provide a financial contribution, residents can choose to visit www.cityofevanston.org/holiday donation. For mail-in donations, checks should be made payable to City of Evanston Holiday Giving and mailed to the Morton Civic Center, 2100 Ridge Avenue, Evanston, Illinois 60201. The food and gift baskets will be distributed on December 16th, 2016 at the Fleetwood Jourdain Center. Families in need may register by calling 311 between Monday, November 28th and Friday, December 9th. The only other announcement I have is that I have asked the city manager and city attorney to provide each of us information on our sanctuary city status, and that is in front of you at the dais. City manager, do you have public announcements?
I do, Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. We issued a press release this evening, and I want to at least read you the title because Patrick Denigan from our Community Relations Division deserves credit for this title, and that is City of Evanston Stumped in Search for Holiday Tree, Branches Out to Nearby Communities for Assistance. That's about the best title of a press release I have heard in a very long time. But unfortunately, it is absolutely true. We do not have a tree for Christmas. We have attempted to find a tree within the city of Evanston for placement in Fountain Square and have been unsuccessful. And it is now the 14th of November. And so we are having a press conference tomorrow at Fountain Square at 10:30 to let the larger community know that we are branching out our search, since we are stumped, to find a tree, and we are going within a 5-mile radius of Fountain Square, which will include sections of Chicago, Kenilworth, Lincolnwood, Skokie, Wilmette, and Winnetka. So we will share more details at the press conference tomorrow, but we're looking for a height of 20 feet. And really what has been, all kidding aside, the challenge this year has been to find a tree that is not only the proper shape, but also unencumbered by other obstacles. So we have had trees that have power lines around them that would have made it very difficult to take it out in one fell swoop. And so we're looking for a tree that will meet that criteria. So we're hoping to get maybe 3 or 4 ideas so that we can send our forestry division staff out to take a look at the tree, make an evaluation. We're hopeful we will find a tree and that we will no longer be stumped.
Thank you. Does that complete your report? Alderman Rainey.
Yes, Madam Mayor. City Manager, the mayor and I were at Dobson Plaza Nursing Home last week. HGTV is doing an amazing show regarding an enabling garden there. And the manager or owner of Dobson Plaza asked us if we wouldn't please take their 20-plus foot blue spruce for the city's Christmas tree. And the only thing surrounding it is a nursing home, which might be a problem. But I think we should go look at it.
Absolutely.
And I did send a note.
And we
to
saw
Patrick.
the note earlier this evening. So we will gather up, but we don't want to discourage. We need a few to take a look at. So thank you for that, and we'll have staff look at it. That's all I have.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications?
No, Madam Mayor, no communications this evening.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Alderman Braithwaite.
Quick question for Clerk Green. Do you know if the results are in from this last election, a breakdown of wards and precincts, who voted and where? Is it in?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Give me a few more days, and should have them all in.
Perfect. When you get that, do you mind emailing it out to council?
I will do that.
As you always do. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comment. I'm going to call the first 4 speakers. You each have 3 minutes. Junad Rizki, Lisa Martinez, Leo Sherman, and Deb Bolin.
Junad Risky. This is a really big mess with these pipes. When the city started this lawsuit, it appears to me that the public safety or the interest of the public was not in mind. It really was a suit to gather money for the city. We have wasted now close to $2 million on this, it appears, and it's climbing. It appears council members and in the 8th Ward aldermen especially have not been responsible with this at all. What I feel here is there's been a lack of integrity on the part of the city to have this suit, because it seems very confused and convoluted and doesn't seem to serve a purpose. And as I've talked about the water department and its technical issues here for almost 3 or 4 years now, my issue is really the operation of it against the interest of the citizens. It appears to be basically run as a scheme to collect money and not really to run in the interest of the citizens. I do not believe the rate increases on the water bills are justified. Unfortunately, this has been self-serving because, as we know, the city takes several $1 million out of the water fund. I believe this lawsuit is really truly nonsense, because I suspect these pipes are either this backfill there is coal tar, or the pipes themselves were lined. And that raises a question to me: how many of the pipes in this city really have coal tar in them? Because frankly, I don't think Mr. Stonebeck's given a lot of good answers. Someone could easily do some historical work and figure out when pipes were lined with coal tar and when they were used. And if Mr. Stonebeck doesn't know that, I guess I'm confused. Is he an engineer or not? And what does he know about engineering or the history of engineering as an engineer who does things like this? So it is interesting, but I believe that those pipes are not with the city's suit here. And frankly, I just feel we have a mess here with this, and it's going to continue. And I think other citizens now are starting to realize, as one person said, I'm the only one speaking on this, but now I think plenty of other people in this town are concerned at the mess we have. And I will say about sampling, you know, Mr. Stonebeck recently, he said to you in AP&W that, you know, it's going to cost us so much to have our own sampling. Well, we have the 2nd biggest water department in the state. So if we're not sampling, well, what are we doing? We're not running a small operation. We have millions of dollars here. So he ought to come back and give you a complete estimate of why he can't start sampling the water better, not just coming up here and telling you something. Get him to do a report that tells you what he has to do. It's time you start to make him responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager, would you like to respond?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, normally we do not respond to Mr. Risky, but I just want to say that Mr. Stonebeck has been an able and capable engineer running our water operation for nearly 30 years. We are very lucky to have him. His expertise, not only in this issue that we're talking about, but in all other matters. He is a very capable, honorable man, and I don't want anyone in this community to think otherwise.
Thank you very much. I agree with every word you said. Lisa Martinez.
Good evening, Lisa Martinez from South Evanston. I'm here on behalf of the James Park Neighbor Group, as well as residents of Southwest Evanston, to present our petition to you. Dear Mayor Tisdall, we residents of Southwest Evanston are writing to you out of concern about the contaminants that have been found in the water of several of our homes, in Dawes School, and at Dobson Plaza. We are concerned that the water is not safe to drink. Our concerns come from the city's own definition of the problem. Even if the city's water is not unsafe to drink today, That does not mean it will be safe to drink tomorrow. We are concerned that methane gas from the manufactured gas plant, MG waste oil, is becoming concentrated and pressurized at levels that exceed Illinois EPA safety limits, less than 60 feet from the entrance of Dawes School. The City of Evanston has stated that the utilities have known since at least fall of 2015 that manufactured gas plant waste oils are coating and penetrating the Dodge Avenue water line, and that contaminants are leaching into the city's drinking water, far in excess of Illinois EPA safety regulations. Source City of Evanston webpage, city's response to motion to dismiss filed 8/31/2016, Exhibit 1-2, page 1011. Although the amounts of carcinogens, fluoranthene and phenanthrene found in drinking water in some of the area homes do not exceed the EPA and industry standards, it is of great concern that any level of carcinogen exists in our drinking water. No level of carcinogen in drinking water is really safe. Of additional concern, fluoranthene and phenanthrene are known to be associated with kidney and liver damage. We call upon you, Mayor, and upon the City of Evanston Council to protect our health and safety by doing the following. 1, prioritize regular communication with Southwest Evanston residents regarding the safety of our drinking water and the plans to eliminate the contamination that flows to our homes through water mains and pipes. 2, test our water on demand for the MG contaminants, namely fluoranthene and phenanthrene. 3, provide appropriate water filtration for our home drinking water supplies for all residents by the end of 2016. 4, immediate investigation and determination of the extent of internal and external contamination of the water mains servicing Southwest Evanston. 5, prioritize the funding and the replacement of all contaminated water mains. We know you are sincere in your concern for the well-being and health of all Evanston residents and will take steps to have our water tested and to have the contamination eliminated. We trust that you and the City of Evanston will work with the Southwest Evanston residents as partners and constituents, and that you will communicate with us regarding our concerns, test findings, and all relevant information regarding the safety of our drinking water. Most sincerely, the James Park neighborhood residents. And if we may approach, we have a petition signed by 150 plus of our neighborhood residents.
Of course. Thank you very much. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leo Sherman.
Good evening, city leaders. We're here tonight to make sure that the voices of the citizens are heard about the problems with the water mains in Southwest Evanston around James Park. We have been chasing the city for information about this problem since it first became known after the federal lawsuit was dismissed in March. Our concern comes from the city's own definition of the problem. Even if the city's water is not unsafe to drink today, that does not mean it will be safe to drink tomorrow. The only 2 community meetings that were held only came about after residents pushed the city to provide information on the problem. At the first meeting, we were promised by Mayor Tisdall that this problem would be fixed. We were promised widespread testing of the level of contamination in the area. We pushed for a second meeting so the community would be informed as to the specifics of the contamination. In both meetings, the staff provided no information except that the carcinogens that exist in the water pose no threat. And if you want, you can use a common household carbon filter to purify the water, which we have found to be untrue. Well, we disagree. Carcinogens do not belong in our drinking water. We deserve the same quality of water that each of you drinks every morning. We are tired of the runaround and the secrecy of this lawsuit, and we want to know the real threat to us. In the memo that was issued by the staff relative to the proposal this evening is gobbledygook. The explanation that they offer about what constitutes positive testing is the worst spin I've ever seen. Let me show you what simplified information will tell you. This is a map on the testing. And in fact, it's also almost covers the entire area that we as a community group went and talked to our neighbors. But the water lines, the contaminated gas lines went down Oakton, also went down Mulford, down Dodge, into the city. Well, look at what the purple dots are. The purple dots are not on Dodge Avenue because guess what? Dodge Avenue has new water lines. The purple dots are off of Dodge Avenue where the contaminants have flowed and continue to contaminate the water. That's why we've been asking for water testing all along, because it has to be defined what the problem is and what we're going to do about to fix it. We also need toxicologists on this job. We need experts in toxicity to determine what is actually a safe level. Everyone, we certainly respect all the city staff here, but that's not their expertise. And I'll just close by saying, even if the city's water is not unsafe to drink, that does not mean it will be safe to drink tomorrow. I guess I do have one more thing. There was a controlled study done in the Netherlands on coal tar contamination. And actually, we shared this with the water department at an earlier meeting. In that, whenever a pipe is damaged, or whenever the pipe is flushed with coal tar, with a contaminated pipe with coal tar in it, or when it's stagnant, those levels go up. So again, if it's safe today, it's not going to be safe tomorrow. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Deborah Bolin, and I also work with the James Park Neighbors, and I'm a public health nurse. My current position is family nurse practitioner at Cook County Hospital, where I've been doing HIV primary care for 25 years. I have a degree in public health nursing. I'm not a fearmonger, and when I've knocked on doors, I've reassured the neighbors I've talked to, I am not about fear-mongering. But the 228 or 280 parts per billion levels that are set by the Illinois EPA that are in the Illinois Municipal Code for these carcinogens are outdated. They were set in the 1980s. And in contrast, the World Health Organization and the European Union standards for these levels is 1 part per billion. And when there's higher levels than 1 part per billion or close to 1 part per billion, they take action. The World Health Organization and the European Union are not disreputable organizations. In 1975, when I started working for the city of Chicago as a public health nurse, I worked with lead poisoning, and the standard at that time was 40 micrograms was of concern, and we brought children in for testing, and those who had 40 microgram levels were retested. Those who were at 30, 35 were considered okay. Now, in the 1980s, the level for lead was lowered to 10 micrograms, and now it's 5 micrograms is concerned. And when a child has 5 micrograms of lead in their bloodstream, they're supposed to be monitored for their neuropsych, for their performance in school, and God knows what happened to all those kids in the city of Chicago in the 1970s and 1980s and before who had their lead levels at such high levels that nothing was done about it. We don't want to see that that would happen with these chemicals as well. These chemicals are not going to show us exact, day to day. Carcinogens take years to show effects. So I suggest that we consider other organizations, such as the World Health Organization's levels of 1 part per billion, and revise our standards and not tell us that this is something that's safe. So I appreciate your time, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Tanya Noble, Rick Nelson, and Rob Beatty.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, Council. My name is Tanya Noble, and I am a resident of Evanston. I live, work, and play in the city. And I'm here, most of you know me because I've been before the council several times regarding the waste transfer station that's located on Church Street. I've been an advocate for monitoring and the oversight of the transfer station for about 6 years, since early 2010. I'm here today to talk to you about the funds that are the $1.2 million in funding and asking you to consider that there are just too many unknowns regarding the hazards at the waste transfer site. And too many of Evanston's children and families live and play near that waste transfer station. There's a lot of scientific study that report the presence of heavy metals, asbestos, biogenic toxins, and levels of organic dust at waste transfer stations worldwide, and also waste transfer dumps in the U.S. And residents who live nearby, it's known, are at an increased risk for asthma, respiratory ailments, and other illnesses. I'm here today to ask the council to consider the unknown environmental hazards that may exist at the Church Street site, and to recognize the need to know these risks before making a final decision on the budgeting of that $1.2 million. Soil sample testing, air quality testing, water testing, odor measurements, rodent controls, these are all among the considerations when talking about monitoring for environmental hazards. The tests should be periodic and they should be ongoing. Until these details are worked out, it's difficult to identify the exact dollar amount that is necessary for the critical environmental testing. With these factors and the public response in mind, please consider the Environmental Justice Subcommittee's recommendation to reserve at least 42% of the funding in lieu of environmental testing. Obviously, everyone here today is talking about environmental risks and hazards, and the legal battle that we currently have with utility companies regarding the presence of coal tar in the city water line should serve as a reminder that we all indeed are responsible for the health and well-being of our community. If we don't do it, no one else out there is going to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rick Nelson. I'm also here tonight to speak on Waste Transfer Station Funds budgeting. At last week's budget meeting, there was a request by Alderman Braithwaite to the Environmental Justice Team to refer an organization that could do environmental monitoring. This is definitely a task that we on the Environmental Justice Subcommittee of the Evanston Environment Board can help you with. But first, the purpose and scope of work for environmental monitoring should be determined. That will involve answering questions like, what are we trying to accomplish by monitoring? What should we monitor? Soil, air, water, odor, the health of nearby neighbors. Will the monitoring happen just once, or does it need to be ongoing? What monitoring can the city potentially do versus an outside firm? The answers to these questions and more will help define the scope of the work to be done. When the purpose and scope of work have been determined, qualified firms can then be identified, and then they can bid on the project, thus providing a cost to budget for. Consequently, our Environmental Justice Group's recommendation for waste transfer station budgeting is as follows, which is consistent with the survey results gathered from the public. Number one, budget 58% of the $1.2 million for infrastructure projects in 2017. And number two, leave the remaining 42% of the funds unbudgeted until a purpose and scope for monitoring and evaluation can be flushed out. We can then get bids and determine a cost. City staff with Environmental Justice Subcommittee support should be able to do this purpose and scoping work in a reasonable time frame. If there's a strong need to allocate dollars for environmental monitoring and evaluation in the 2017 budget, we suggest $100,000 be budgeted this year for the scoping effort and any initial implementation costs. The 42% of the funds minus the $100,000 would then be left untouched in 2017, and ultimately used to pay for the full environmental monitoring and evaluation program, which would probably occur in 2018. Both the EEA and CGE, the two most prominent nonprofit environmental organizations in Evanston, support a transfer station budgeting approach that is based on the survey input from the community along with a 58-42 split of funds, and that's exactly what we are proposing tonight. We hope Alderman Braithwaite and Holmes, along with the rest of the City Council, will give careful consideration to the approach we are proposing, and the Environmental Justice Team looks forward to assisting where we can on this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Kirk Green and City Manager. Rob Beatty from the 8th Ward. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm speaking on the water issue, and I'm coming here as a parent. I first want to recognize the James Park neighbors for doing an outstanding job of actually going out on their own, and I would say that was a great effort. That's the word I'd like to concentrate on, is effort. It didn't feel like the city was making an effort to take care of the residents of South Evanston, the 8th and the 9th. I'm not pretending to, I just joined the James Park neighbors and have been looking at all the information and just trying to be a support to them. But as a parent, with these schools being in such close proximity to the contaminated area, James Park, Dawes, and Chute, my son is at Chute, and many other parents, I just want to talk about effort. And I want to leave that with you, effort and judgment. We had 2 meetings on the water issue, and the first meeting was a meeting that was actually scheduled with a Flint meeting. They had a big symposium at the Rotary Center. And I found that strange. How could on one side of town we're having a meeting about how to prevent Flint, and on the other side of town we actually have an immediate problem, and those two things were somehow disconnected. So it was very interesting. So effort in the judgment of that, I'm calling into question. I'm glad to hear that in the Public Works meeting that we are going to do the testing that needs to be done. I don't know all the legal terms, and I'm sure a lot of people don't. The people that showed up at the second meeting on, I think it was September or October at Dawes, those folks walked in with no clue of what was going on. And I would just say going forward is that we make an effort. We make an effort to communicate. We make an effort to, sometimes, south side of Evanston, we kind of feel like we're left out. We really feel left out sometimes. And this is a serious issue. One of the biggest organs in our body is our skin. And we're showering with this water. We're drinking the water. We don't know what's what. And the people need to know. We need to know what to do. That's why we're here. And again, I applaud James Park neighbors for going out to 400 plus doors. They didn't have to do that on their own time. Leo and the group of others. And they got us the information. And I really appreciated that. And I want to work with the city. The residents want to work with you to solve this problem. So I want to see, what we would love to see is a schedule, a plan to really attack this and take care of the pipes that need to be replaced, namely. And
Mr. Beatty, I need you to wrap up.
all right.
Thank
and
you.
Again, testing. Thank you so much for all you do, because you never get enough thanks, but also we need more effort here. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Joseph.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Joseph of 1510 Greenwood, and my topic is posted bus stops versus flag stops. Once again, the new plan for Sheridan Road around Northwestern is posted bus stops only. And Catherine Knapp, your intergovernmental affairs person, stated that. Yet, the list of bus stops in Chicago that CTA publishes, the same route, Route 201, says buses will stop at all corners in Evanston upon request. And once again from Catherine Knapp, says that's what the city wants. So there's two confusing things. What does the city want? Posted stops or flag stops? Cannot have both. Please decide which one it's going to be. Right now we're going to have a route which some of it's going to be one and other parts going to be the other. On a separate topic, I want to thank the council for reducing the speed on Sheridan to 25 miles an hour, and I hope you'll consider reducing it on Dodge to 25 miles an hour. We have 2 schools, 2 parks, and children around at all times. There's no reason why Dodge should have a 30-mile-an-hour limit. Please consider 25 on Dodge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes citizen comment. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The consent agenda, Administration and Public Works Committee met this evening, and we ask your approval for the following. Payroll, October 3 through October 16, $2,770,239.52. Through October 30th, $2,816,313.17. The city bills through November 15, $4,179,577.51. Those are for action. A sole source agreement is requested with SCS Engineers for collection and analysis of water samples in the not-to-exceed amount of $250,000. The collection of samples from a total of 64 sites. I think we're increasing that to about 67 sites. Is that correct? 67 sites. Including the James Park neighborhood and from at least one site from each ward. The not-to-exceed amount of $122,000. The remaining funds shall be used to collect additional samples in the future. A 2/3 majority of the City Council is required to approve the agreement. Also requested is a purchase of total station and GPS survey equipment in the amount of $43,478.36. The existing survey equipment utilized by city staff is outdated. We ask your approval also to authorize the manager to execute contracts for snow towing services in an amount not to exceed $60,000. A list of the towing companies is included in your packet, and various Evanston towing companies were included. The City Council is requested to authorize the sole source purchase of Cisco SmartNet networking licenses and software from CDW in the amount of $73,063.37. Hold on a second. I just lost. And 37 cents. To support the city's essential computer networking system. This is for the period of October 10 through September 15, 2017. We ask your approval for free holiday parking in the city's 3 downtown self-park garages and Lot 60 located at 1234 Chicago Avenue on weekdays between 5 and 12 midnight and all day on Saturday beginning Thursday, November 24 through Monday, January 2, 2017. This is for action. Also requested is approval of Resolution 70R16, which authorizes the manager to sign notification of grant awards to fund and operate a congregant senior meal program at the Levy Senior Center and Fleetwood Jourdain. This is a reimbursement program dependent upon the number of lunches served and varies depending on the levels of participation. The expenses are projected at $86,306 with a local cash match of $20,523. We ask your approval for introduction to adopt proposed ordinance 138-016 to establish left turn prohibition from Ridge Avenue onto Grove Street between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Also for introduction is proposed ordinance 139-016, which will establish right turn only from Grove Street onto Ridge Avenue between the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. For introduction also is ordinance 147-016. This is a resident-only parking district in the city of Evanston, this is a resident parking only district on both sides of Jackson Avenue from Lincoln Street to Central Avenue, and both sides of Rosalie Street from Jackson Avenue to Asbury, and Asbury west side from Lincoln Street to Rosalie, 7 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m. Monday through Friday. Let's see. This, residents stated that due to increased activity of businesses and commuters, their neighborhood parking in the area has become nearly impossible. It's an extension of Residential Parking Permit District 6. So this is for introduction. The council is asked to adopt ordinance 110-016, which amends section of the city code related to removing requirements of certain businesses having to do with motor vehicle repair shops and price stating for retail establishments that are no longer performed by the city of Evanston. They are no longer regulated by the city. This is for action. A9, the city council is requested to adopt, this is for action, ordinance 125-016, regulating personal wireless communication facilities. Also for action is revised ordinance 130-016, reducing the speed limit from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour on Sheridan Road from South Boulevard to the north city limits on Burnham Place. This was changed to some extent because it was determined that the south part of Sheridan Road is controlled by the Illinois Department of Transportation, and therefore there may be some changes later on. Staff is recommending that we adopt ordinance 140, this is for action, 140-016, reallocating or moving parking meters in designated areas of the city that a cost-benefit analysis showed there was no longer any reason to maintain them. We're asking for action and the adoption of ordinance 131-016, which amends the city code to increase the number of authorized Class D liquor licenses from 54 to 55 and permit issuance of Class D licenses to Asian Cajun 2 Corporation, doing business as Asian Cajun 2, located at 1322 Chicago Avenue. Liquor Commissioner recommends the City Council adopt Ordinance 132-016 for action to increase the number of authorized Class T licenses from 2 to 3 and permit issuance of this license to Rent-A-Chef, doing business as The Caterist, located at 940 Pittner Avenue, Suite 5. Ordinance 137-016 is for action, and it creates a new Class W liquor license.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Alderman Rainey, can we take that off? I just have a quick question.
Sure
regarding that
enough.
ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, that is off the consent agenda. Madam Mayor has requested the following appointments to the Mental Health Board: Larry Murphy; to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Kirill Minichev; Housing and Homeless Commission, from the Human Relations Commission, Kyle Lauterhahn. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Miller.
Aye.
8-0.
8-0. The consent agenda passes. Alderman Braithwaite?
Yes, Madam Mayor,
Peter.
I'd like to move item A14, ordinance 137-016, amending the city code section 3-4-6 by creating the new Class W liquor license.
Second.
Thank you. And I apologize to our committee members of council. I wanted to bring this issue up in AP&W. My question is, so we're charging this group $4,000 annually, I guess, to grant. And last 2 weeks ago, we had a similar request from Studio 5. And I guess my question is it the same amount? Did I just miss that? $4,000 seems like a lot of money.
It is the currently in effect amount for this particular class. The applicant raised this issue at the last liquor board meeting, which was
Okay.
last week. So he made a request to amend the hours of operation. Staff was studying that, and he also made the request to lower the amount of the fee in this code. So those were issues that were vetted at the last meeting of the Liquor Commission on Thursday, and those matters will be coming to the Administration and Public Works Committee meeting for further consideration when we actually consider the application itself.
Okay. So, Alderman Rainey, I'll defer to you, and I apologize. I wish I would have brought this up earlier, but I caught it today. So it was my question is the $4,000. It seems a little bit high to me, and again, I don't have a reference point from 2 weeks ago. And then I also, the 2 drinks a day is something that I question also. It's similar to the movie theater, and it just seems a bit restrictive.
The 2 drinks a day was suggested by the applicant.
All right.
I was there for both.
Thank you.
For both meetings, at both the commission meetings.
Yeah.
And Madam Mayor, the liquor commissioner, the high liquor commissioner.
Very
is
high.
absolutely correct. They suggested the 2 drink, but this is just the ordinance to create the license.
Got it.
There is no application yet for the license, and we
Okay.
did. The liquor commissioner was very liberal and said, and so was the staff, and just bring us the application for the license, and we'll consider you, and we'll have another discussion.
Thank you.
And so I think, we'll just let's leave the license on the books and
Sure.
then see the application and maybe talk about it then.
I think part of the broader discussion will also be about food. I don't think having a couple peanuts somewhere in the facility is going to be quite enough.
Well, and also, I think there was, they never did this before, and I think they're just, flying by the seat of their pants. They also want to have events there. And,
Yes.
I don't know of any event where 2 beers is
Well,
going to do
that's,
it.
I
So
would guess that, yeah. All right,
So-
thank you.
there might have to be some other amendments.
Yeah, I understand.
It's been moved and seconded to pass ordinance 137-016, amending the city code by creating the new Class W liquor license. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson. Alderman Holmes. Alderman Tindem. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Miller. 8-0.
8-0, the motion passes. I believe we are at call of the wards. Alderman Miller.
No report.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a question. So tonight there was the resolution from 2008 basically creating or changing Evanston's status as a sanctuary city. Is that correct? No. Did we all have this at our?
Yes.
Okay.
Just information.
Okay, it was for information. On some websites, Evanston is considered a sanctuary city. On others, it's not. So I'd like some clarification, if possible, on what our legal status really is. I would certainly support, if we're not, I would support doing that. Well, some websites don't list us as one, and one says that we were a sanctuary city, but something changed in 2008. So I don't think it's clear, at least on the internet, what it is that we are. So I would like some clarification on that, if possible.
I think that would have to come from the city attorney then, if you have a definition of sanctuary city that everybody has different
Everyone
definitions.
has different definitions, right?
The issue, Madam Mayor, members of council, the issue will benefit from further analysis and study, and we will be coming back to you with a full report on that on the 28th.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else, Alderman Fisk? No, thank you. Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Two quick items, Madam Mayor. First, this weekend, myself and Alderman Holmes, attended a play at Piven Theater. It was called Afrofuturistic. Did I get that right? Mm-hmm. Incredible play that was pulled together 2 weeks. So I just want to send a quick shout out to William Eason and Nicola Acular. I may pronounce her name incorrectly. They put together a very timely play with a very small cast, and as he described, as a shoestring budget. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to see that. It definitely speaks to the social and political times. Just a must-see. And then the second thing, in response to Mr. Nelson, who's still in the crowd. So I had an opportunity over the weekend to speak to one of our residents, and it's never a surprise. We have a lot of smart residents down, and he happens to be a Professor DePaul. And to the issue of the waste transfer station, he is looking into the testing, the quality testing, and from my understanding, it's something that DePaul University actually provides grants for. So I just want to say thank you to you and the many members of the environmental community that stay focused on this issue. It's something that myself and Alderman Holmes, as well as members of council, take very seriously. And so I look forward to following up with him, and if we can exchange information, I'd like to include you on that conversation as well. So I don't want you to mistake my asking those questions for dismissing the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Nguyen. Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Thank you. Alderman Holmes.
Fifth Ward meeting this Thursday, the 17th at 7 p.m. with both superintendents from 65 and 202 as our special guests. Everyone is welcome. As a follow-up on the play, it's Afro-Futuristic and Why Black Lives Matter. And they did videotape it, so I'll be coming back to staff to see if we might be able to get it shown on the cable. Yes. So, but we have to first see if it came out okay. But this play was done last spring at the high school.
Yep.
It was developed for the high school. It was 22 minutes, and they extended it 23 more minutes. So it's about an hour. But it's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Alderman Tandem.
No report tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I want to say a few words about a man named Viru Joshi, who passed away this week, who was a longtime office manager for Neighbors at Work and CETA. He managed Neighbors at Work and oversaw the organization until he retired, the local service center, until 2010. And was quite a guy, and I think probably in this room only Alderman Holmes and I may have known him. I'm not sure. She knew him from Head Start and from Neighbors at Work, and I must say that he was such a delightful guy who probably knew every single person in this town who ever needed help or who had any issue of any kind, and He was born in India, and he ended his life, the last few years of his life, as being a major player in the Indian LGBT community, and devoted all of his time until he died. And he died of a very serious disease. And his memorial service is tomorrow. And just known throughout this community back then, when Neighbors at Work was a very, very active player. And I worked at Neighbors at Work with him for several years. And as a matter of fact, I worked with him when Neighbors at Work offices were at where Kurt's Cafe South is now. That was our building, and we occupied the entire building. So I think that's kind of interesting that that is now Kurt's Cafe. So I just wanted to say that he was a very special guy.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment. Would anyone like to make a motion? Oh, call of the wards. That's right. You are indeed. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.